Pastor Steve Palo is a facilitator for the 2 grief support groups at Ascension Lutheran Church in Brookings.
One of them, the grief group, it's just a general grief group in which people have lost, husbands, wives, even bereaved parents will come in and be a part of it. The second grief group we have is the suicide grief group to help people to mourn the loss of loved ones who have died by suicide. And as you know, with suicide, there's a certain traumatic nature of it, as well as stigmatization of death by suicide.
Palo says the support groups are for grieving individuals who are asking questions of why.
The grief groups are there to get at what is the meaning of this loss. And that is a hard thing. People will always say, well, why did this happen? Why would God allow this to happen? And to go through the why questions into how do we live is so important. And these support groups do that.
He says these individuals are torn apart.
You're torn apart emotionally, physically, because many times people who are grief-stricken will not be able to eat, they'll lose weight or they'll gain weight. People will be torn apart socially because people will struggle with how do they interact with this person. They will be torn apart spiritually even. And so the actual grief world is a world of being torn apart, or as we say, bereaved.
Palo says he models his facilitator role in groups around Dr. Alan Wolfelt, who he has trained with for years.
We use his book, Understanding Your Grief, for the grief group, and Understanding Your Suicide Grief for the suicide grief group.
Palo strives to help and educate people with grief on how to handle it, as growing up in the Midwest, he didn't have that education and support.
And then when I lost my dad in '93, almost 30 years ago, it was like, who do I go to mourn this loss? And my dad was a pastor, and yet I didn't have that community.
And one of the biggest lessons he teaches is the person they love has left their body, but they're with them in mind and spirit forever.
I never ask people to say goodbye to their loved ones anymore. I used to, but now I just say it's time on this path of grief and mourning to learn how to say hello to them every day until the last breath of your life.